we have tonight? You got to unmute, my friend.
We got the one and only Bill Ham tonight. But before that, unfortunately, I need to spend 1 minute sharing a little bit of tidbit information of our friend Yosef. Guys, so Yosef, today is his special day. It is his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Instead of all of us, getting crazy trying to sing happy birthday, which never really works out, especially on Zoom, we're just going to have it kind of like displayed for you guys, and we're going to just kind of listen along as we get this little happy birthday for Yosef, because this guy's been working so hard this year. Everything that he's put together has been amazing. He's been rocking and rolling. So let's enjoy this little happy birthday for Yosef.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
Very cool.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I got my free Starbucks coffee, and now I'm ready to roll.
Guys, I'm just so fortunate to be, involved with Yosef, and I know that I don't want to take up too much time, but he really deserves a lot, because he's been so helpful and just so dedicated to making things happen that I can't say enough about this guy. True character. Just a really good guy. All right. Let's jump into it. So tonight we have Mr. Bill Ham. This guy is the owner operator of Phoenix Residential Group and Phoenix Residential Management, and also Broadwell Management Group. So he has been in the real estate business for 15 years and has created a portfolio of over 1,100 units while growing Phoenix Management to a team of 15 staff members. He has taught real estate for the past 6 years, has dozens of highly successful students. He uses his extensive real estate experience to teach the students the real side of real estate. And guys, he got into his first 402 doors using seller financing. Welcome, Mr. Bill Ham.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that's it. You covered it. We're good. Let's get started. Now you all know me. All right. Good. So I'm welcome everybody. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to kind of go over starting at a high level, the basics of real estate, and then as I talk, I'm going to sound a lot less crazy. Give me a minute, and we're going to work down towards details, and then I'll get down to some actual techniques towards the end. Let's see, and I've got some slides for you guys. If you want to put questions in the comment thing, that's fine. I'm going to wait until the end, and then I will take all the questions at the very end. All right, let's see. I need to do screen share. All right, hopefully you guys can see all that. Hopefully.
Yep, there you go.
All right, cool. Whoops, slideshow, start from the beginning. And there we have it. So there's my book. I've just, besides the introduction, I have been in real estate for almost 16 years now. Started off as a pilot flying airplanes, walked away from aviation. I had saved up $10,000. I had one duplex, and that's what I turned in my 2-week notice to the boss. Walked away from full aviation career, $300 a month, and that's if nothing broke, and $10,000 in cash. So nothing particularly interesting as my beginnings. Not a lot of money, no experience, didn't come from a business family, anything like that. Basically got started by watching friends of mine who I thought were idiots go out and flip houses and make, in 1 or 2 flips, the same amount of money that I was making working all year. And I thought, all right, wait a minute, they're as dumb as I am. Something's wrong here. And turned in my 2-week notice and said, I'm out of here. I did flip houses for a while, spent first several years in single family, then kind of started getting into multifamily through smaller multifamily. My first one was like 9 units, and then I went 20 units, 27 units, 44 units, and then sort of got larger and larger after that. The first, as Nico mentioned, the first 402 units were all done with some form of creative financing, not just seller financing, but some form of creative financing, anything from master lease options to seller financing to using debt partners, credit cards, lines of credit, you name it, partnerships with realtors. I got realtors to carry back IOUs for commission. I mean, I was just making it up every single day. And reason was I didn't have any money. I didn't have any experience. So this was back sort of starting in 05 through the first couple of years there. And that's why I wound up creating that first portfolio using only creative financing. Now I've come out and I've written a book. This is it here, Creative Cash. and it is actually going to be available on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. It'll be available on Amazon on the 9th. I'm not sure if Audible's coming out quite on the 9th, but you can go and get this book on Amazon. I'd really appreciate it, and leave me a giant review if I give you anything good tonight, any kind of tips. Apparently, reviews are the things we're supposed to be doing now. So this is my first book. It's all on creative cash, creative financing, how to use all different techniques. Also, selfless plug, you got the website there, creativeapartmentdeals.com. There's actually a full home study course there if you want to go get the, we call it masterclass. You can download about 10 videos off of that website if you're interested. All right, so what we're going to talk about tonight, getting started, you probably need $1.5 million. Why? Well, why not? But that's not the point. You probably need $1.5 million because you're probably after $10,000 a month cash flow. Right? Did I hit anybody's number? Is that your magic number? 10 grand a month positive cash flow? Yeah. How did I guess? Well, not the first time I've asked that question. So normally when I go around and I give lectures and I speak, I always kind of ask everybody, look, what's your cash flow goal? Like, I don't mean being super rich and Ferraris in Vegas and this kind of nonsense. I mean, like, what's your number that if you could get that in passive revenue would really probably make a difference in your life? And the 97% answer is $10,000 a month. And that's everybody's magic number. So where do we get $10,000 a month? Well, where does passive income come from? Where does cash flow come from? And these are questions that I realized after teaching for a while, most people were not asking, and most people can't answer the question accurately. Therefore, most people don't ever actually produce the $10,000 a month in revenue. And I believe from a lot of experience here that it's because you have a misunderstanding of what this business is to begin with. All right. So if you need $1.5 million, it's because you need that 10,000 in cash flow. Where does cash flow come from? Equity. All right. If you have $1.5 million producing an 8% return, 8% cash on cash. So let's say you give me $1.5 million. I park that in one of my deals. I give you 8% return. It's 120 grand a year. If we divide $120,000 by 12, real simple, there's your $10,000 positive cash flow. So where does 10 grand come from? It comes from equity. How much? Well, that depends. Average deal producing an 8% return means you need $1.5 million at work for you in real estate to produce that $10,000 passive revenue. So if you have a goal of creating cash flow, you're mistaken. You have a goal of creating equity that produces cash flow. And that is a killer important point right there, because everybody runs around always talking about cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Look, I'll tell you right now, cash flow is a fool's errand. Don't worry about cash flow. Nobody's getting rich on cash flow. Cash flow will get you out of a job. Equity will keep you there. Right? Equity is what we were actually after in the real estate business, not cash flow. I know that's sort of real estate blasphemy. I understand people are probably picking themselves up at the moment, but listen, you're not after cash flow. If you have no equity, you'll get no cash flow. So what you're really after is to produce the $1.5 million that gets up and goes to work for you every day, because either your money's going to walk out the front door or you are. Somebody's getting off the couch and going to work. And if it's not you, it's got to be your money. So if you got $1.5 million, go ahead as an LP, as a limited partner, write somebody a check, get an 8% return, you're done. Oh, if you don't have $1.5 million, okay, then we have a different question here. How do we go get $1.5 million? Well, let me tell you, it's not cash flow, right? So we can get $1.5 million by going out and doing deals, by syndicating, by doing renovation projects, by flipping, wholesaling, all the different ways that we can do it. But you're going to be somewhat transaction based for a while. That's also another big misconception that I see a lot of people that are new to the business come along with. And they say, look, I don't want a job. I don't want to be transaction based. I don't want to go from deal to deal. Look, if you figure out a way to build a real estate portfolio without being transaction based, write that book. I'm your first customer. I'm taking your class. If you figured out how to build this business without putting some elbow grease and some back into it and some effort in here and doing some deals and hustling for a while, it's not possible. People think they're just going to come in here and buy a deal or two and then go sit at home and just collect all this mailbox money. And it's not true. It's nonsense. You're going to get out here probably 3 to 5 years being transaction based, building your business to get the $1.5 million so that ultimately you have that cash flow. Now, the idea is that the more deals we do, hopefully the less partners, the less LPs and GPs and other partners that we need going forward. So this is what I call the conveyor belt theory of real estate. All right, so what I want to explain here is imagine a conveyor belt, kind of something like I have on the screen here. And this conveyor belt is going to be 5 years long. All right, why is a conveyor belt 5 years? Because that's the average hold time of most syndicated or most multifamily deals where we have partners. So you can consider 5 years. All right. So if our conveyor belt is now 5 years long, as you see here, what we want to do is in year one, you want to put your first asset on the conveyor belt, and that's going to be a closing. That's your multifamily, maybe a small multifamily, maybe it's houses. It doesn't really matter. Year one, you're closing those first deals and you're putting those on the conveyor belt. All right. Year two, those have moved along. We're going to close another deal. We're going to put the second property on that conveyor belt. Year three, year four, year five, each year, we're adding more assets to the conveyor belt and they're moving along. Well, as you can see, as we move from left to right on the screen here, you're getting cash flow. So this is as your operation. So that's a 5-year hold and operate window. And that's the cash flow that's being produced. At the end of the 5 years, that first asset comes off the back of the conveyor belt. And as you can see here, that's a liquidity event. It can be a sale, it can be a refinance, it can be whatever, any type of exit strategy. So again, back to the 5 years, year one, year two, you're putting these things on there, they're moving along. 5th year, the first asset comes off the back of the conveyor belt and we have profit. All right, liquidity. We take that profit and through either a 1031 exchange or just general reinvestment, you take the money and the capital gains, the equity that you're liquidating in that, you reinvest that back to the front of the line and we put another asset on the conveyor belt. So you can see it takes about 5 years to really build yourself a pretty good portfolio. At the end of 5 years, you're now putting one on the front and one's coming off the back. And the next year, one's coming off the back, one's coming on the front. So after you sort of fill this proverbial conveyor belt that we're talking about here, your portfolio is now built. You're going to turn your portfolio annually. You're probably going to sell an asset or two and you're going to buy an asset or two and you're going to sell some and buy some and sell some and buy some. And at each event, each liquidity event, each exit strategy creates a fair amount of cash. If you will roll that back into the next asset, into the beginning of the conveyor belt, you can start limiting some of those LPs. And so starting using your own money instead of LPs. And as time goes on and the conveyor belt model rolls forward over and over, and we roll that money to the front, you're limiting your partners, you're limiting your general partners, you're limiting sponsors, your own net worth is building up. And that is where you wind up with $1.5 million that is at work for you. It comes from the assets, it comes from the equity, and it comes from the exit of that asset, taking that cash, reinvesting, and putting it in the deal. And that's what I call the conveyor belt theory of real estate. This is not something that's a taught subject, so please don't go talk to your realtors about the conveyor belt. They're gonna look at you like you've grown another head or something. This is something that I've developed, so you heard it here. But this is my theory of sort of explaining how a real estate business is built. Now, in my mind, and I haven't had time to actually create a good graphic here, but in my mind, I kind of see this conveyor belt starting off with little greenhouses and then all of a sudden turning into big red hotels, right? And so it kind of, as it moves along, I see the first year 1 and 2 are little greenhouses and then they turn into red hotels. So as you transact, your assets are probably going to grow in size. You know, you're going to start going up the food chain. And that's what I did. I started off in houses, I had little green houses there, like monopoly houses. And then as time went on, I started going into larger and larger assets with experience. And that's how you'll ultimately get that $1.5 million. It's by having equity in these deals, cashing that equity out, rolling it forward. Now that brings us to the age-old adage: location, location, location. Right? Anybody ever heard cash flow, cash flow, cash flow? Not unless somebody was selling you something. Why location? Because location equals appreciation. Appreciation of what? Our equity that we sell and liquidate at the end of the deal. Take money, roll forward, put to the back. This is a point in time, and we don't really, there's too many of us here, but I usually kind of ask, and if anybody's in here that has owned real estate, you can kind of figure this out. I always say, hey, is anybody in the room, can they give me an example of a house? You know, maybe or some kind of a small asset that you bought it, you cash flowed it for a little while, and you sold it. And usually somebody says, yeah, I've got a deal like that. And I say, okay, great. Tell me about that. And I'll say, so how long did you own the property? Oh, 3 years. Fine. How much did you cash flow every single month? And they'll say, oh, $300 a month. It was a great deal, whatever. And I say, okay, that's wonderful. When you sold the property, how much did you make? And they say, oh, now when I sold it, I made $100,000. I say, So if you stop and think about, where was your profit made? Was it really in cash flow, or was it in equity? And so I invite everyone here who's ever owned an asset that they may have held and operated and cash flowed for revenue. Go back and look. And if you don't have an example, if you're new to the business, talk to other people in this room, talk to other people in the business. What you will find is that the majority of a project's profit comes from equity and the liquidity of that equity, not cash flow. Now let's talk about a syndicated deal. You're talking about LPs. People want to be LPs and we got to go raise money. Well, there goes a fair amount of the cash flow right there, doesn't it? If I've got $1.5 million and I hand it to you, I want an 8% return. Well, you might not see a lot of cash flow for a little while. It's why it's imperative that you set your deals up where you get equity, and that we have a flight to quality right now, especially if we're going to go into a recession, especially if the market's going to get a little bit tougher. You want to be in quality assets so that they appreciate, and that they appreciate through all market cycles, and that you have that equity. And that's how a basic real estate business is built, is this sort of cyclical motion of putting assets on here. This is your portfolio, operate, sell, and you're going to do that until you finally get up enough assets to hold them long term. Now, right now, people probably are thinking, well, hey, why would I ever sell? Why don't I just keep it? Why don't I close the deal if it's cash flowing and just give it to the grandkids? Well, you can if you bought the property with your own money. Have you ever gone and tried to raise money from an investor, an LP, and said, hey, you should invest in my deal? And the LP says, great, when am I going to get my money back? And you say, well, when my grandkids decide to sell the property. Yeah, right. See how that investment strategy goes. Look, you can't get into this business. You can't be working for LPs and raise money and use other people's money if it's only to service you. Not going to happen. So for the first 5 or so years of your business, you're really going to be in service to your partners mostly. And you need to understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't come out here and think you're going to get rich first year or two, flip a few deals, and that's how it works. It's not. It's time. It takes a while. It takes transactions. It takes education, which I applaud everyone for coming here and learning. And that's how we get a business, and it takes time and it takes energy. So anyway, that's kind of my rough explanation on how to get started in real estate. All right, how do we go out and start closing those deals? How do we get these things funded? How do we get into these real estate deals? Well, that's what we're going to talk about more tonight is creative financing and using some of these techniques that I used early on in my career. Why creative financing? What is creative financing? Why now? These are all questions that are pretty pertinent to ask right now. Well, typically creative financing, as I mentioned, is any sort of strategy that you can use to get a deal closed without having to walk into a lender's office, put money down, get a traditional finance and then doing the deal. So it can be all different types. The two main types I'm going to talk about tonight are master lease options and seller financing. Those are two of your bigger topics. But why now? Why haven't we all been doing creative financing over the last 5 or 6 years? Lack of problems. When the market is hot, all right, first of all, we have to understand market cycles. Let me back up a little bit. Market cycles, all markets cycle up and down, and we go through 4 phases of what we call expansion, the plateau, the recession, the trough, and then expansion again. So you can kind of just imagine a wavy line, basically, in the business cycles. So over the last 7 or 8 years, since about 2010, we've been in an expansion market cycle, meaning the hill's been going up. Everything's up. Prices are up. Rents are up. Life's been great. We've been in sort of a renaissance period for a long time now. And so that means that's the expansion market cycle. Now I believe we're up at the top, plateauing, and then maybe even headed down now into the recession cycle. And then we'll go into a trough cycle at the bottom, and then a recovery, and then expansion again. Yeah. So why I'm saying right now that it's going to be so pertinent that we have this information going forward is debt. Debt gets tougher. I know we've got some lenders on the call. I was just speaking to one a minute ago, but Debt drives all market cycles. You have to understand that the old adage, he who has the gold makes the rules, is 100% true. Lenders control the large majority of our economy, and they certainly control the large majority of our ability to do real estate. Why this is going to be important is because at the moment, and what we're seeing is the lending market is starting to tighten up. Lenders have the foresight to see better into a future market than typically the average person. And so what happens is, say, debt like agency debt, Fannie, Freddie, these large lenders can kind of see the recession coming. So they go ahead and start tightening up their terms, right? Which then puts less money in the market, which then just kind of causes a recession. So it's a catch-22. The reason that creative financing has not been that prevalent over the last few years, and why it's about to be very prevalent over the next several years, is as we move into this recession cycle, lenders are going to have a flight to quality. That means they're going to start moving towards quality assets. They're going to tighten up criteria for lending. They're going to tighten up criteria on borrowers. Right now, if you go and talk to Fannie or Freddie, they have seriously tightened up their criteria. If you are inexperienced right now, agency debt is going to be hard for you to get. If you're new to this business and you have no partners and you have no resume, agency debt is going to be a challenge. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's going to be a challenge. They're tightening up on the escrows that we have to put down right now. Fannie Freddie making us put up a year's worth of taxes and interest and PITI, basically, things of this nature. So this is where you're going to start to see lending tightening up. I always kind of make the joke, when the markets are rising, our lenders use a certain term, and we call it value add, right? When the markets are declining, all of a sudden it's a distressed asset. That's lender language, right? So if the markets are going up, we were going to use cute terms for it, and the market's going down, all of a sudden we call it distress. Not so cute anymore. Well, that's verbiage that you can start to pay attention to. And so I implore everyone here to really become a student of debt and a student of our lenders, and watch the behavior, watch the lending behavior, and watch the terms in a market. It's one of the greatest ways to sort of predict upcoming market cycles. Just watch what the lenders are doing. So right now, I think we are seeing them tighten up and pull back on stuff. Interest rates by this time, somebody always brings up the point of interest rates, and they go, yeah, but interest rates are so low. So what? Irrelevant point. Who cares that interest rates are low? Two problems. Number one, all the profits go into the seller. Prices are so high right now that even with interest rates low, it's really not doing us any good, because we're just transferring that value to the seller in high asking price or low cap rates. So that's kind of irrelevant that interest rates are low right now. The other part that's relatively irrelevant about the interest rates at the moment is that it doesn't matter what the interest rate is if you can't qualify for the mortgage, because the other terms, not interest rate, have tightened up, all the things that I just mentioned. And so that's what we see, and that's kind of a tip off that you're going into a recessionary period. Your lending base retreats some. We have what we call a flight to quality. All right, so why creative financing? Well, when we have one of these distressed assets, let me back up. So over the last 3, 4, 5 years, if someone had a problem in real estate, a distressed asset, they could solve it by just selling the property. Just park it on the market and sell it, easy. When the debt starts to pull back and times get tougher, and now let's even add in COVID, tenants not paying rent, the assets might become distressed. Lenders are not as comfortable lending on those assets, but the seller still needs to sell. We have a problem, and that's our opportunity right there. And that's what I teach in my book, and that's what I teach through creative financing, is how to go out, identify a seller that has a problem. Shortly, that problem is going to be that the loan that you could get for that property isn't going to be an attractive loan. The loan to value is going to fall. Lenders, the sort of holy grail for lenders, I've always said, is a debt service coverage ratio. That means that the lender is only going to want to lend you about 1.2 to 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. I'm not going to go off into all that. You can look up what that means. But basically, when a property's performance falls, you have two options. You have two levers you can pull: lower the price or lower the loan to value. That's it, right? So if you go and analyze a deal, and the only tool you have in the toolbox is to say, well, I'm going to go over to the bank and I'm going to borrow 20 or 30 or 80%, I'm going to put down 20 or 30% at this interest rate, and I'm going to buy that deal. What you will find is that in a recession cycle, a lot of deals don't work with that kind of financial structure. And so how does a seller sell, and how do we get in and buy assets in that market cycle? Creativity. And that's what I teach, and that's what I want everybody to learn, is that how do we go out and solve problems with our offers? How can we find a seller that somehow we can trade what we have for what the seller has, real estate, and we both wind up in the end, and we don't necessarily need a lot of traditional financing to complete the transaction. That's how I created a 402 unit portfolio, was doing that right there. All right, so enough of that. First technique that I like to talk about is master lease options. It's the same thing as a lease option. So if anybody has done this in single family, it is essentially the same thing. We say master lease option when we're talking about multiple units in multifamily, basically. So that's why master. All right, so a master lease option is 2 contracts, and you really want to keep them as 2 separate contracts. One contract is the master lease, and the second contract is the option to purchase. All right, so we're going to talk about each one of these separately. So I'm going to start off with the master lease. All right, let me back up. So what a master lease really does overall is it is a contract that allows you to rent someone's property with the right to sublet those units and the right to buy that property someday in the future at a price you negotiate today. So let's say I'll use Nico here as an example. You know, Nico wants to sell me his 100-unit apartment complex. Let's say it's distressed, and for whatever reason, we can't get a loan on it right now. But Nico is a burned out landlord, wants to get away from the asset. I come in with my master lease. I'm going to rent Nico's 100 units, gives me the right to sublet to those units, to the tenants that are in place. And then Nico and I are going to decide on a price today. So, you know, $1 million is the price. Great. So now I control the asset. I control the subletting and the operations. And Nico and I have agreed on a price. Now I have to decide, and Nico and I would decide, how long is this agreement going to be in place? All right. Meaning, if Nico and I agree on a price of $1 million, that means I am the only person that can buy this property per this agreement for a certain amount of time for $1 million. Let's just say it's 3 years. All right. Nico and I agree to a sales price, and I say, okay, Nico, I'm gonna come in here, and with this agreement, I'm gonna take over the property, fix it up, and I'll exit within 3 years sometime. And at that point in time, I will exercise my option to purchase, and I'll buy the property from you then for $1 million. So again, you can see I'm controlling sort of the operations and the future sale of the asset. All right, so that's kind of what a master lease option does in general. Master lease, the first half of the document. This is the part we control operations. This is the part where we control management, and this is the part where we control the cash flow. So this is it's a lease, just like it sounds. This is you renting Nico's apartment, me renting Nico's apartment. And in this lease, we're gonna decide on a rent payment. How much am I gonna pay Nico every month? And who does what, who controls what, who operates what. So typically as a lease payment or a rental payment, what I wanna pay Nico, the lease that I wanna get away with, hopefully, is his mortgage, his taxes, his insurance, right? I want Nico to break even. I don't want him making money. I do want him to break even. So I would sit down and say, all right, Nico, how much is your mortgage every month? You know, interest, all this kind of stuff. What's the nut we got to cover every month for your property? I'm going to pay him that from the collections of the property, but hopefully no more. Now, in the very beginning of a lease option, property may not even make enough money to cover that. So you kind of have to check that out in your analysis, doing the math. But hopefully you can get it to where it'll at least cover the operations of the property. What you want to do with this lease is then to go in and turn the asset around, operationally speaking. With this document, this is where we go in and we do renovations if we need to. We do unit upgrades if we need to. If it's a bad management, we might want to bring in a new management company, turn the operations around. That's the idea of this, is that I'm going to kind of set that price with Nico, and then I'm going to get the property running better than he could during my time on that property. And the value here is the little amount of money that it actually takes to get into these deals. So you see what I'm doing? I'm controlling the operations. I'm renovating an asset. I'm bringing it up to value, up to speed, but I'm not actually buying the property. I'm borrowing the property. And that's important because see, if this were distressed asset, it might be tough to come up with all that cash. Maybe partners don't want to join you. Maybe you don't have any money. Maybe this is how I got started in business because I didn't have any money, right? So we'll talk about option money and putting that down in a minute. But the idea here is that this is a way that if you don't have experience in the business, perhaps you can get some, perhaps you can get into some of these kinds of deals where you don't have to go through a lot of the criteria that you would with traditional financing. So that's kind of the value of doing lease options. Master lease here again lets us rent the property, take over controls, take over management, straighten that thing out, get it running. And we would be able to keep the cash flow in this agreement, right? So all net positive cash flow above the rent payment that I got to pay Nico, I would keep that. So hopefully we're going to get something that we can make it cash flow more than Nico was, right? And make the property run well. That is in the deal analysis. That is not something we have time to cover tonight, but you need to go out and whoever you're working with, wherever you're getting your information, get really good at deal analysis because that's where the real money's made. Is being able to look at a deal and say, I see where the seller went wrong. I can fix that pretty easily. Hey, seller, let me borrow the property. I'll straighten it out. We'll exit. We'll give you your money in the future. So that's kind of roughly what a lease option does. And that's the master lease portion of it. All right. So the second portion is the purchase option or purchase memorandum or option purchase memorandum is what it's called. All right. Separate contract. This is the part where Nico and I set the price. This is the document that says, okay, Bill has the right to buy Nico's property for $1 million for the next 3 years. And then it sets how much option money that we have to put down. All right. So in almost all states, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody's in some other state, in almost all states, the minimum consideration is $10. Consideration meaning the dollar amount that must transfer for a contract to be legal. In a lot of cases, if you do not have consideration, if there's not a transfer of money, the contracts can be considered invalid. I think in some states it may only be $1. I don't know, but I believe in Georgia it's a minimum of $10. So there has to be a consideration. So meaning you're going to have to give the seller some sort of option money. All right. The option money is going to be considered a deposit and it's going to be treated just like earnest money in any kind of purchase. So Nico and I are going to negotiate back and forth. We've set the price and it's going to be 3 years and I know how much I'm going to pay him each month and all that. Great. What's the cost of doing this deal? What's the option money I'm going to have to put in here? Well, that would be something that he and I would negotiate. What I recommend is that you never put down more option money than you can cash flow back in half the amount of time of the agreement. All right. Let me say that again. Don't put down more money than you can cash flow back. Number one, don't put down more money than you can cash flow back in half of the agreement time. So in my analysis, in this example with Nico, I would say, okay, Nico, you and I are going to do a deal for 3 years. I would analyze Nico's deal and I would figure out about how much money that I thought I could get that thing to produce in net positive cash flow in 1.5 years, half of the 3 years. And that's the amount of money I would want to put up. That amount or less is what I would really want to put up as option money. Why? Well, because if I do not exercise the option, what if I get to the end of the deal and I realize that this is a mistake? Maybe the market didn't go the way I thought it would. Maybe the deal didn't go the way I thought it would. And I said, you know what? I don't want to actually buy this property for $3 million. Thank you. Never mind, Nico. You keep the property. Nico's going to say, fine, not a problem. But your option money is a forfeit. Excuse me. Just like that deposit, right? Like the earnest money. So that is why I say try best you can not to put down more money than you're going to cash flow back in half the amount of time. 2 reasons. One, then you get a 1.5 years worth of free cash flow, which is nice. And then at the same time, you get to the end of the deal, you don't want to close the option. So what? Hand the keys to the seller and leave. You have no more financial exposure, right? You don't have any more money because you cash flowed it all back. So that's how, that is a strategy that I would use when trying to decide how much option money should you put down. you know, as little as possible, but as much as it takes to actually get the deal done. I mean, that's the real answer. Do we think we're going to go out here and do, you know, lease option deals for multifamily for $10? Come on, be serious. Probably not. You know, be ready to put down a little bit of money. But here's a metric you can try and use is cash flow to figure out about how much. All right. So then that takes us to exit strategies. All right. You're going to have to exit the deal within the option time. Well, the exit means you're going to have to exercise your option, which means purchase the property, right? That now, if your exit strategy is to purchase the asset, okay, I'm gonna exercise the option, pay Nico the $1 million. Now is the time to go over to your traditional lender, to your finance, you know, normal bank, for Freddie, Fannie, wherever, Old Capital as we have tonight. That's when you go get the mortgage. You've brought them an asset they like. It's nice and clean. The numbers are good. Your lender's gonna love you. Okay, we'll then pay Nico his $1 million. Wait, hold on. This is a purchase, not a refinance, because I know a lot of people are thinking that. You don't own the property. You are strictly a renter. So your option cannot be, or excuse me, your exit strategy cannot be a refinance. It has to be a purchase. Now, let me tell you something. When you walk into the lender's office, they're going to tell you, we'll give you 80% or whatever the loan to value is of the purchase price or the appraisal, whichever is lower. Well, Nico and I have an agreement that I'm going to buy this property from him for $1 million. I was a good operator. I made the property worth $2 million. So shouldn't I just be able to walk into the bank and borrow, you know, 80% of $2 million? No, because you're not refinancing. So the bank is going to look at you and say, okay, hopefully the appraisal is $2 million, as we said. So we'll assume that it is. They're going to say, what is the purchase price? 1 million. They're going to base their loan to value off of that $1 million. So don't think that you can force the value up, refinance, and then cash out money out of a lease option. It does not work that way. You will need to purchase that asset or sell the option or sell the entire master lease option. And that's another great technique we can use with master lease options. You can transfer this entire document or the option to purchase or the revenue stream through the master lease. So you can sell that document. So that is a way that you could actually wholesale multifamily. It's you know, I think a lot of the wholesaling that people try and teach when it comes down to multifamily, like, hey, go put this property under contract and then find somebody to come buy the contract. Look, that might work in houses. It'll be very, very difficult to pull that off in multifamily. We have lawyers involved. We have, you know, contract. It's not a form contract. So trying to wholesale multifamily like that is not impossible. It's highly improbable. And so what I'm telling you is that you can go in here and get a lease option. And once you have your lease option in place, then you can sell that document. You know, so I got a property I'm doing with Nico. We have it under lease option here. And then I sell Joseph the option and he closes the deal someday in the future. So it's a way that we can actually sell an asset or at least transfer control. I don't want to say sell because it's not really. The way that we can transfer control of an asset without ever actually owning it. And that's a really important aspect of real estate. It's not ownership, it's control. And that we can make a lot of money in this business without ever actually owning things if you know what you're doing. And so that's lease options. That's kind of an overview. The second main topic we're going to talk about is seller financing. This is a pretty quick one here. And then I'll kind of wrap it up, check out the time. I'll kind of wrap it up after this, and then we can kind of move to questions and answers if anybody has any. Seller financing, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The seller's acting as your lender. You know, they're going to hold the paper for you. All right, number one, a seller cannot transfer interest they do not have. If the seller has a mortgage, they cannot give you seller financing, not legitimately. All right. Now, a lot of times people say, well, wait a minute, what about subject to financing? What about doing a wrap? Yeah, I seriously suggest you don't do that, and for a number of reasons. I don't like doing wraps. I don't like subject to. That can trigger what we call the due on sale clause. All right. You cannot transfer title or something of that nature without the lender calling the note or having the option to call the note due in full. And that's what we call a due on sale clause. It's like you can't sell the property, get all the money, and then not actually pay the lender off. Not the way it works. So if a seller has a mortgage, then some people will try and do what they call a wrap. And that's basically where, you know, you, the buyer, go to the seller and say, hey, just don't tell the lender and I'll just make all the payments for you. And you go away and I'll essentially own your property, operate it, and I'll make the payments. And let's just not tell the lender. And they probably won't care as long as we make our payment each month. They'll love us anyway. Yeah, look, that's nonsense. I've seen loans accelerated over stuff like this. So be very, very careful about that. I don't recommend doing a wrap and things like that. What I recommend doing is a lease option. So if the seller has a loan in place, skip seller financing, move to lease option. Another tip, when you're doing a lease option, it's more in line of a management transfer than ownership transfer. But I recommend that you go talk to your lender or whatever debt your seller has in place. Get it in writing from that seller's lender that they're okay with you doing a lease option, and then you're safe. This whole sneaky, let's do a wrap and just don't tell the lender thing, that's amateur hour. I really would not suggest you do that. It's a phenomenal way to get yourself sued. But again, if the seller has full equity and no loan, then they can do seller financing. And that's where you're going to literally take possession of the asset. You're going to be on title. You're going to record the mortgage, just like a normal closing, just like a normal lender, except the seller's going to carry back paper. All right. So again, down payment money, things of that nature, similar to a lease option. We want to be negotiable about how much money we put down, things of that nature. You're trying to put down as little money as possible. You are probably going to need to give on price, take on terms. All right. So what I mean by that is what I have found, and this is a lease option as well as seller financing, sellers tend to be infinitely more sensitive on price than on the terms of the actual deal, such as interest rate, down payment, things like that. So when doing creative financing, chances are you're going to have to kind of hit that high number. You are, but that's okay. Let's go over here and put less money down. Let's go over here and get the loan interest only. Let's defer 6 months worth of payments to the seller. Let's do all these other things that we can do to help get this asset stabilized. So here's some techniques. Down payment money. I always try and swap out down payment money for repair and maintenance on the asset. So if I'm looking at, let's say, again, I'll use Nico. If I'm looking at Nico's property and Nico's going to give me seller financing, and Nico says, well, I want 20% down. I need to know you're a serious guy and that you've got some skin in the game. And I say, okay, that's fine. It's $1 million property. I got to put down $200,000. I go and look at the property and I say, gosh, Nico, you need some roofs and you need this and you need that. And the property's in bad shape. I tell you what I'll do. We'll get an attorney or an escrow company, title company, doesn't matter. And what I'll do is I'll take that 200 grand that you want me to give you as down payment money. I'll put that in escrow. With the lender or with the a title company or the real lawyer, whoever, we can all see the money's there. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that $200,000 and use that money to do the repairs to your property instead of giving you $200,000 cash and then having to come up with another $200,000 to actually fix up your property. So that's why I always try and negotiate as much swap out for down payment that I'm going to kind of spend on the asset. And the sales pitch you want to use there is to go back to the seller and say, yeah, look, here's the key. You're in first position mortgage. So if I don't pay you, you immediately take possession of the property. And if that occurs, you're going to take the property back in a hell of a lot better shape than when you gave it to me. $200,000 better shape, as a matter of fact. And that's why you want to do this deal with me. Instead of down payment, I'm going to fix up your asset. I'm going to put you in a good position, and then we can exit through a refinance here. So you can refinance out of seller financing and then pay that seller off. And that's the key. So you want to try and limit as much cash out of pocket as possible. So try and swap out down payment for repairs and maintenance. Number one, if you can defer payments, that's another great technique. I've done a lot of deals where I went in and said, I need the first 90 days or 180 days with no mortgage payment. I'll take that money and put it to the back end. I'll let it accrue to the price. So you still get your money. I'm just not going to pay you a mortgage payment for 90 days or 6 months. Now, why is that so important? Because what I can do is use the revenue that the property is producing itself right now with no mortgage payment, and I can roll that money right back into the units. I can literally make properties fix themselves up. I've had a lot of assets renovate themselves without a penny out of my own pocket, because I was able to defer some of the debt service, some of that mortgage payment, and it allowed me to let that property cash flow like crazy for a few months. I didn't keep the cash flow. I rolled it back into the deal, brought the asset up, brought the revenue up, and then took it over to my lender or whoever the case may be. They like the asset then, it's pretty, it's up and running, it's clean, it's a value add now, no longer a distressed asset. They love me, they do the deal. I pay off the seller, and I'm in a deal without possibly without coming out a lot of pocket money, a lot of money out of my own pocket. And the best part that I found through creative financing is it allows us to limit LPs and GPs. It's a way that we can all really sit in the driver's seat. It's a way that you can now go back to my conveyor belt model. It is a way that you can start transacting quicker and faster and in a down cycle. And with less partners, you move towards that $1.5 million number much, much faster. And so that's why I started tonight off with that conveyor belt model, because now you can see it's all about transacting. It's all about getting equity, not cash flow, equity that ultimately produces cash flow. Fine. How do we build this portfolio, especially in a down cycle where lenders may be pulling back? We use creative financing, and that's how we limit partners, build up our equity, and then get rolling and get into a business without a ton of money or without a ton of experience. Thank you. Good night. Any questions? All right. So that's pretty much presentation on that. You guys got anything? Nico, I wasn't paying any attention. I don't know if anybody's got any questions in there or anything, or if anybody wants to put anything in there now. I know I kind of ran through that pretty quickly, but that's basically the model. Is just get out and build a business and transact and use all types of techniques. Don't use just creative financing. Use every kind of technique you got to build that equity.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. I have a couple of questions.
Perfect.
I'll read from James' question. So the owner gives you a full creative control over the property. I think that's based on the lease option, I guess.
The master lease.
The master lease, actually.
Yes. So you are getting control over that asset. Yes. And you would negotiate in that contract if there was anything specific you wanted to do or anything specific the seller didn't want you to do. Maybe the seller doesn't want you tearing down buildings or something crazy like that. But yeah, I mean, reasonably speaking, yes, you have the ability to go in and operate that asset and do whatever needs to be done to bring that thing back up so that you can take it over to a lender or someone and get that thing refinanced. Because that's the key. You want to get the seller out as quickly as possible. You want to get in, turn this thing around, turn and burn, get that seller out, compress your time frame, and get to stabilized, long-term, traditional financing as quickly as possible. You want to go to Old Capital or someone and get that loan and get into long-term stable financing. Seller financing and lease options are short-term. You don't want to be in those things for long-term.
Great. Next, Patrick, you want to read your question? I want people to speak up. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great presentation.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, for the master leased option, you probably touched on it, but what's the incentive to the seller for master leasing versus selling if they aren't really making any money after paying the monthly mortgage, et cetera? Is it more that the money that you're promising off the get-go?
Yeah,
down payment?
the catch would be they can't sell.
Mm.
And that's kind of my point where I said, hey, why have we all not been using a lot of creative financing over the last 5 years? Because they could sell, right? Because the market has just been euphoric. Well, when that market cycle changes and we are not in such a great market, we go into a recession and lenders aren't as readily funding those type of deals, and the seller still wants to sell, you can go over and get a loan. You're just going to get a lot less loan to value. You're going to bring a whole lot more cash to the table, and then your cash on cash is terrible. And then it's just not worth doing the deal. So that's why a seller would be willing to do this, because they've hired a realtor and the realtor keeps bringing them these very low offers. And why am I getting such low offers? Well, because your property is distressed. Yeah, but I owe more money than that. I can't sell at that price because I owe the bank this. You're in trouble. You got a problem. That's why a seller would do something like this. And they would do it because your offer is going to create value. So it's something I didn't really spend a lot of time on, or didn't really spend any time on tonight, but something I teach in the book is what I call the SPY technique. And that stands for seller, property, you. And that answers your question of why would someone do it? Because you're going to learn how to analyze the deal and identify their problem. And then you're going to go in and actually solve their problem with your offer. So that's why you're going to do it. Kind of an education process. I believe Nico even saw one of your posts called the ugly baby syndrome. I won't go into all that tonight, but you're basically identifying assets that are distressed. I won't steal the thunder. That's on your other podcast.
You can, man. No problem.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to that. All right. We got any other questions?
Yes, we got a couple more. So Chad, let's go yours.
Hey, Bill, when you structure your offer for the lease or even like the option to purchase, is it escalating per year the purchase price? Or do you just say, hey, in 3 years, I'm going to purchase at X, and you just kind of project what you think it's worth at that time that they agree to?
Correct. You're going to set the price day of, and that price would not escalate. So that would defeat the value of a lease option. So the general idea is, like I said, Nico and I agreed to this price being $1 million for 3, and I can buy that property sometime between tomorrow and the next 3 years for $1 million. Hopefully I'm pushing the value well over that $1 million. Hopefully that it goes way up, and that's the value of doing it. So if my price to Nico kind of rose with my effort, I wouldn't be rewarding myself for my effort. So I want to hold that price static, but then bring the value up and above whatever Nico and I agreed to, which, yes, Nico and I may agree to a price that's somewhere between what it's really worth right now and maybe some portion of the value of the future. Again, that's really about negotiation. It's kind of tough to say, but yeah, you would not want the price rising. Now, I'll give you a quick tip. What you can do is actually have the price decline every mortgage payment. Here's a trick. What if I say, Nico, the price will be whatever you owe the bank the day I exit? Now every time I'm making a mortgage payment for Nico, every time Nico is paying his lender, which he's building equity in the property, right, by paying the mortgage down, so am I. So again, if I say, okay, Nico, you and I, you owe $1 million to the bank and the purchase price is $1 million, but then over 3 years, Nico pays the mortgage down, he's actually still making good money in that equity, which, it's fine. But if you want to get slick, you can kind of say, hey, payoffs, the debt, the loan amount, day of the exercise of the option. So that's a little trick. A little harder to negotiate that one, but there you go. You can give it a shot.
How do you compensate the brokers in an offer like that? Because most of those
Chapter
are
5.
still listed.
It's all sorts of different ways, but that is a very, very good point that you bring up, is you have to compensate your realtors. And it's literally like an entire section of the book where I go through really how to get creative with realtors. And in short answer, anything goes. I've had realtors carry back IOUs. I have shared in cash flow with the realtors. I have given them equity in the deal, brought them on as LPs, for their commission, all kinds of crazy stuff. In lease options specifically, well, creative financing as well, but specifically in a lease option, since you're not actually closing the purchase, you're just creating the option. What you want to do is take that realtor's commission and write them into the actual contract, the option, so that one day when you exercise your option, the realtor gets all their commission that day. It's a way of making them more comfortable with the scenario, because that is one pushback you're going to get. Wait a minute, this isn't a sale. As the realtor, I'm not going to get paid. Perhaps maybe if you can suggest some of your option money, go to the realtor as commission. I mean, there's a bunch of different things you can do, but yeah, it is an important subject of taking care of your realtors. Absolutely.
Thank you. George.
Hey, what's up, Bill? Hey, when the buyer is involved in a master lease option, how is he protected and making sure the seller doesn't renege? Is anything recorded?
Great question. Yeah, I'll tell you, the only 2 things you can do in this life: hit them or sue them. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You can go upside somebody's head, and that is illegal and has very questionable results, or you can take them to court, and that is totally legal and has very questionable results. Be very careful about getting into a deal before you get into a deal. People are way too quick to think that the law is in their favor, and if this person does this, I'll just sue them. I'll take them to court. We'll lawyer. Whoa. That's expensive. You never know what kind of crazy judge you might go in front of. I've been sued. I've sued, all this kind of stuff. Stay out of court if you can help it. The only other thing you could do would be physically do something. And that's why the mafia always did business the way they did, right? They didn't use courts. They literally, contracted. So there's only 2 options. You can do something physically coercive to make them sell that property to you, or you can sue them. Both are bad. Walk away from the deal. There is no great way to protect yourself. There is, but there isn't. So one protection, and by the way, if anybody didn't understand that question, basically what he's asking is if, hey, you get ready to exercise the option and you've blown the value of the property up and the seller says, nah, I don't feel like transferring the title. I'm not going to actually sell you the property. Nah, there's not a lot you can do about it. Number one, that's why I say try and cash flow back all that option money. So if you get into that kind of legal confrontation, you can really kind of ask yourself, is it worth it or not? You won't have any more skin in the game. You'll have no financial exposure. Maybe it's worth lawyering up. Maybe it's not, whatever. The other thing that you can do is record the option. And this is why I really, really, really suggest everyone here have attorneys, and always use an attorney to create any documents and to do any of these lease options or any of this stuff. Always go through an attorney, and you want to go through a closing just like a regular sale. Now, you might be able to go do some kind of lease in the back of the hood of your car or something in the parking lot. I strongly recommend you do not have that attorney create and file these documents, because what the attorney can do is to record that option against the title and cloud the title. That'll, at least if another legitimate attorney goes to pull title, they will find your option. It should stop a sale. But that doesn't still make the person sell you the property. So that's back to the hit 'em or sue 'em. And I don't recommend either one of those. So I just try and be wily and not get into situations you can't get out of to begin with, i.e. cash flow back all that money. And then you can decide what you want to do. I have not ever had that occur to me. I have had it occur to a friend who got into a deal, and the seller basically said, hey, our option is $8 million and you made the property worth $12 million. Sue me. I'm not giving it to you. Lawyer up. And that's what they did. And it took about 3-4 years, and then they finally got the property. So you just want to avoid that stuff. Hope that
Thanks,
helps.
Thank you.
Ian, it looks like your question is similar to George's. Is that right? Or you want to ask?
Yeah, it is actually. It's. I think I might have heard you, Bill, talking about this exact same point through another podcast or something else. So
Sure.
It seems to me like, you make all the effort to get this master lease option in place. You do all this hard work and everything else, and then, if the vendor or the seller's got half a clue, who's going to see that the rents have gone up, he's going to see the place is looking better. It must be very tempting for them to want to hold on to it, particularly if they know that you're probably not going to have any pushback on that. So it seems like a very risky proposition. How often on average, does it happen? Does it happen very often or not very often?
Not very often, really, because again, if you go through some of the stuff that I show you in here and you get your contract correct, you can stop them from sort of any kind of easy sale. And that's why I say, if you go and cloud the title, if your attorney puts this document against the title and they surreptitiously go behind you and say, hey, well, I'm going to sell the property to Joseph over here, and we just won't tell Bill about it. Well, they'll find that document. So you can't force them to sell you the property, but you can really make their life miserable if they think they're going to exit in any other manner or sell to anybody else. So it's not as free and easy as you might think. Yeah, you may have to lawyer up a little bit, but they can't just haul off and sell the property that easy. It's not that easy to do at all. And that's why I say, if you use attorneys, it's a lot harder and a lot more safe on your part. If not, buyer beware. But yeah, it could occur. I've only seen it happen once. And so that's why I bring.
Can't hear you, Bill.
Bill, you hit your mic or something.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
There you go. No. Can't hear you, mate.
Yeah, Bill might have got cut off there. Oh, he's back.
No, Bill, we can't hear you. No. Can't hear you.
It says he's muted. Oh, no, he should be okay to go now. Maybe he's just got a bad connection like he had earlier.
Maybe pop back out and then hop back in.
Yeah, possibly.
Quick. If you we'll probably have another 10 minutes. If you have to leave, it's fine. Otherwise, he's gonna try to answer the rest of the questions. Um,
Are there any lip readers on the call?
yes. We have like 4 or 5 more questions, and that's it.
Yeah, they're pretty good questions too. I don't want to leave
Right
them
now,
hanging.
right?
Man, this is great. Bill's killing it, huh?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, guys. So get that book. All right. So he's going to need us to review it. You know, I put the link in there. You guys will get the link in the follow-up email for all this stuff. You click on the link. When the book comes out, I think you can pre-order it now. But when the book comes out, just give it a review, even if it's like a couple of lines, like this book is great, or Bill put a lot of work into this, because it really goes a long way in getting the book sold. And just, you know, it's not necessarily to earn money to make. Or, you know, you're not going to make a fortune on this, but it's going to get his exposure out there, and he deserves it, you know.
It's pretty cheap, like 99 cents.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, Kindle.
Exactly. So it's not to make money necessarily, but to spread the word and you know, get his name out there of what he can teach, because these teachings are like, this is top-notch stuff here. All right, he should be jumping in back in now. So they're
His here. Bill, can you? Yeah, still having some now.
Oh,
Yeah, Bill trying to share his secret, and Zoom just muted him.
Okay.
if you speak slowly, we can try and read your lips.
Oh, that would be a next notch.
Okay, got it.
All right, so let's do it this way. I don't think it's gonna work. So Nico, how can we reach Bill? And for the questions that we have, or any other questions, you guys can reach Bill, and then he's gonna answer all the questions for you.
Yeah, so we're going to give you guys a follow-up in a follow-up email with this recording. It'll get sent out in the morning. You're going to get his email address. You're going to get his websites, his various websites, especially this one that I just put in the chat. That's got his book. It's got this one is titled Creative Apartments, creativeapartmentdeals.com. It's in and that's where you're going to be able to get his book. You want to review the book, and then you can shoot him any questions. He's also got a master class on there, guys, that him and Gino did, with like 10 hours of like awesome content if you really want to get deep onto this. And on top of that, you can book a call with him, and he's readily available for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these conversations with Bill should last literal days. Like I can lock myself in a conference room and just sit and listen to this guy for days, because I learn a ton every single time I talk to him. You know, had him on the podcast, learned a ton. Just listened to him today on Jake and Gino's podcast, learned a ton. Had him on the meetup today, learned a ton. And, you know, it's just something that's not going to end. So.
All right, great. Again, just Bill at gobroadwell.com, GOBROADWELL.com. He would answer all the questions. It's great teaching, wealth of knowledge. Thank you very much, Bill, for coming today. Oh, I thought he was. Maybe not. All right, everyone, thank you very much for coming today. And it was a great night. And again, reach out to Bill and ask all the questions, okay?
Happy birthday, Yosef.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
As
Happy birthday.
always.
Thank you, everyone.